in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending provision of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting in a hybrid model, both virtually and in person. The Cemetery Committee is conducting this meeting on September 6, 2023 at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time on the Zoom platform and in person, and in accordance with the town's policy directive and guidelines that were issued on April 1st, 2020 and amended on May 7th, 2022. If you are recognized, please state your name and address. This meeting is being recorded. So I, Rod Rydell, hereby call this meeting to order. All committee votes will be taken by a roll call. We will start with an attendance roll call of committee members. Announce your name, please reply. Ryan Davidson. Here. Jerry Ducey.
Here.
Jeff Walton. Here. Priscilla Sturgis.
Here.
Rod Rydell. Here. Next item on the agenda is deed signing. Chris, do we have any deeds that I need to sign after the meeting?
We have 6, but you can sign them out.
Okay, I'll
Yep,
sign them
6
after.
deeds.
We have 6 to sign. And you'll
Oh,
sign.
plus you signed 10. That'll be reflected, but you did sign, remember we
I
did
signed 10 during the summer.
a few weeks ago, yeah, so that's 16 sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the next proposed, the item is A4. The next proposed cemetery committee meeting is proposed for October 4th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay.
Yeah.
Next item A5 is approval of the minutes of our May 3rd and June 7th meeting. We'll open this up for discussion, suggestion for amendments.
I have no items.
Everyone have any?
Move to approve the May
Minutes?
Shall we
May
do it
3rd.
one by one? Did you have, I know you had talked about checking a fact check on one.
Oh, I think I had a question, but I think we
We resolved.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's no discussion, why don't we move for vote?
Well, actually, I have discussion on the second.
Oh,
I
okay.
just question on the second.
So this is a discussion of both. So
Discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, this is really actually more than a building and grounds update. I just wanted to see how the filming went.
Okay.
We had to cut.
So let's do that when we get to our committee members' comments and in D6. But let's proceed with approving the minutes from the May 3rd and June 7th meeting. Jeff, you get a motion?
Motion to approve.
That's a second. Okay. Roll call. Start with Jerry Susi. Okay, I think he said aye. Okay.
You're muted.
Aye.
Ryan Davidson. Aye. Jeff. Aye. Priscilla Sturgeon.
Aye.
Rod Rydell. Aye. Unanimously approved. Now for our discussion and possible action items, second section of the agenda, the Concord Public Works staff report.
Good evening, Aaron Bosco, Highway and Ground Superintendent. Two things. It has been a very busy summer. Number of interments, lot sales, and lots of maintenance going on in the cemetery. Thanks to Tish on her efforts. Couple things that are coming up, so everyone knows we are have a tentative date of September 18th. And starting to dig the foundation for the mausoleum, the new section of the cemetery. We're just waiting for confirmation back from the lot owners, and we'll be out there kind of monitoring that work and that construction as it progresses through the fall. Estimated timeline is most likely to get like a foundation in this fall, and before the winter, all the rest of the materials will still be prepared for an installation sometime in the spring. As far as details on burial and lot information, been 3 months since we had met last. The 9 full burials and 55 cremation procurements took place over the summer, and there were 19 single grave lot sales and 3 cremation lots that were sold. I know that I think Rod, you had requested some of the staff priorities in relation to, you know, the goals. As far as the master plan discussion.
Why don't we hold that?
So I will hold off. I have those.
Yeah.
Hold off on those for that item, but I have some of those as well.
Okay.
We are planning our fall tree planting program for, you know, townwide tree planting and looking at some sites in the cemetery and plant some trees as well. We've been working with a landscape architect over the summer who provided us recently with a little plan for restoration over the the Melvin family lot areas, and we're going to work on procuring some of those materials and doing some restoration based on the landscape plan. And I plan on sharing that with the group at next month's meeting. We received that plan late last week and reviewed it internally. That looks good. We're also progressing with getting our Wright Pierce on contract. So they're already on contract with the town, but working with them to kind of move forward with the stone wall construction detail, so we can get that project out to bid for construction work for the stone wall reconstruction at all 3 cemeteries throughout town as well. We have our landscape contract is coming to an end this fall with Einstein's current contractor. So we'll be working on going through that bid specification, going out to bid, and getting a new contract in place here at the end of the season. Continue on to headstone restorations. We've been contracted with historic Milligan gravestone restoration, and they're working through some of those that did take a break during the summertime. We'll continue on this fall, and working with our engineering group to design some drainage, stormwater drainage work that needs to get done in the cemetery. We've been in the cemetery cleaning out catch basins and clearing some drainage pipe recently. And then obviously with the recent rain that we've had, some of our pretty intense rainstorms over the summertime, there's been some runoff and some debris collected, some roadways, been sweeping those streets, and we'll continue to sweep as needed. And what else? We're doing some tree work as well, some tree maintenance and tree pruning. And that work will kind of continue on in the fall as well as we shift some resources around. See the movement across town. That's pretty much all I have. I don't know, Tish, if anything else you want to add.
Aaron, did you want to mention the CPA grant proposal you sent me back?
Yeah, do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, it's probably,
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yes.
this is something that was
Yeah.
discussed, right at the beginning of the summer.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, working closely with Rod, put together a great application draft to the CPA for metal fencing evaluation in an effort to kind of get an idea of where that infrastructure is for all 3 cemeteries, so that we can then put together a plan for kind of rehab and reconstruction as needed, while still maintaining the historic characteristics of those pieces at all the different cemeteries. So I provided some comments back to Rod. The due date for the CPA application is Friday. We'll get the application in, and then I'm guessing hopefully at maybe the October meeting we'll get a letter of support from the cemetery committee for that application.
Okay, just some additional background. I met with Aaron beginning of the summer. We were looking for what might be the next step once the stone structures and stone wall project is underway. And just to remind everyone, we have a grant to repair 50% of the stone structures and stone wall. All the stone structures, all the stone walls in the 2 cemeteries that are in the town center, and a good fraction of the stone walls in Sleepy Hollow, but there's still 50% more in dollars that needs to be obtained in order to complete the stone wall repairs in Sleepy Hollow. So that's like phase 2 This is a multi-year project, and a lot will depend on what we find is the actual budget, the real expenses for these repairs. And that will allow us to adjust our grant proposal and maybe decide where we're going to ask for that money. Anyway, so that's going on. But at the same time, knowing that this is a multi-year project, we took a look at whether or not the town had the money in the budget to do an assessment, engineering assessment, much the same way an engineering assessment was done for the stone structures and the stone wall. And it turns out we didn't. So what we came up was the idea of, well, let's get ask for money from the CPA to do the engineering assessment. And the engineering assessment here is going to be a little bit more involved than repointing or, or totally repairing the stone wall. In some cases, it's going to be restoration. In some cases, it's going to be repair. In some cases, it's going to have to be replacement because of the state of some of the metal structures in the cemetery. So we put together a proposal, and I've just gotten, before the meeting, Aaron's comments to the draft proposal. I'll get that back to you, Aaron, probably by the end of the week. Oh, actually, it has to be submitted by the end of the week, right? Okay, I'll have to get that to you then tomorrow, so that you can go ahead and submit that. Okay.
Yes, we could probably talk, if you have a couple minutes after this meeting, we can talk through the details.
Sure. But that's one of the things that was going on over summer, so the summer school project.
One question about that, if I may.
Sure.
These funds are being requested from the CPA, and in addition to our regular budget. Does this work not, isn't this work covered in some level from the perpetual care funds that we have?
No, not really. So the way that it works for perpetual care, so our budget is funded through, well, our budget, so let me go back. The cemetery department budget essentially is funded this year, FY24, 100% through the cemetery fund. And that covers employee salaries, it covers expenses such as materials, supplies, utilities, everything we need to run the department, as well as capital projects. Capital, there's $40,000 is assigned to kind of capital projects, and that includes $10,000 specifically earmarked for headstone restoration. Now, the cemetery fund itself is funded through the sale of lots, and could be donations, and then the interest accrued out for perpetual care. But the actual money that's in perpetual care does not get spent out. So when we sell a lot, essentially the total cost of that lot is half that goes into the cemetery fund and half that goes into perpetual care, which is essentially a trust savings account. And then from that, the interest then can be shifted over.
Yeah. And in our budget, I'm sure there's probably a line that says how much is coming over from perpetual care each year.
Yeah, in accounting, like much higher level than what's like published in a typical, like we would see in the line item budget as far as like accounts. When we're looking at the accounts and the budget that's in, if you're looking like the budget book talks about cemetery fund and how much is requested. It's really, I think, split up between salaries and expenses. Might be a little bit more detailed than that, but not much more. I think beyond that, as far as if you wanted like to know how much is perpetual care or how much is in the cemetery fund, the whole, those are things, that number that I can get you from like town accountant's office.
Yeah, we talked about this before. We kind of went through it. I wondered for things like this, especially when we have this huge new deposit of funds into the perpetual care fund. Is that going to be used over the years? That interest will be used or be specifically cordoned off for the mausoleum. I know there's two funds in there. So I guess I'm just interested in what the cash flow is for projects like this. They're pretty important, and I would think are a major part of the overall ongoing maintenance and perpetual care of the cemetery.
Yeah, I mean, what the idea is that the perpetual care money is there, interest is accrued, interest is then used for kind of essentially operations, maintenance, and everything, right? And then also some capital. That's why we can't just go in and spend, all the money every year, because then we wouldn't have any money left to run the operations of the cemetery, right? So when we get a large deposit like the mausoleum, in the lot sale that was 400,000 went to perpetual care, he's around 400 and change went into the cemetery fund itself. That money can then be spent, but our annual budget is 200, close to $200,000 a year. You know, all said and done, including salaries and everything that we do for expenses and materials. We got to make sure we are able to be self-funded, continue perpetually, right?
Well,
So
that's
we can do maintenance, because it's very expensive to run the cemetery as far as all the maintenance that's done, all of the interments, all, you know, not just, you know, separate from just the capital projects. In addition, you know, we're buying trucks, we have to buy heavy equipment to be able to do the work that we need to do. There's a lot of needs. If you know, obviously we go through the capital plan, and it was done, a lot of work went into it by, you know, previous committee members. There's a lot of needs in the cemetery. Of course, you can't do them all every year. And also just the amount of staffing and resource time that goes into it. You know, we have, as of right now, we have one full-time employee dedicated just to the cemetery. The other employees that support the cemetery's time is split into other departments as well. You know, my time, Justine's time, Kelly's time. And then we were lucky enough to be funded this year. Last year, I put the request in for a second full-time employee. That position is advertised. We're actively trying to recruit, hopefully hire a cemetery specialist. So.
Yeah, I guess it's still kind of confusing to me, especially with us now taking over 100% this year of the funding. I guess I don't have a clear view of our ability to understand our financial needs and demands over the future if we're going to be funding 100% of our budget.
This may segue very nicely into the cemetery master plan. I can see sometime in the future during this year, maybe right beside you know, how that is. And also, but one thing I do want to point out, within the budget, from all of these sources of monies, has been pretty consistently a $40,000 a year allocation for capital, right? And capital goes into a number of different, you know, categories. Some of them are capital repairs, some of them are gravestone repairs, some of them are tree replacement, and then a number of things. A few years ago, there was we had the benefit that in a particular year, there was enough available to just use what remained in that capital budget to talk to Wright Pierce and get an engineering assessment of stone walls. This year, we had planned to be similarly, you know, opportunistic. There wasn't any money. And that's one of the reasons why I said, okay, well, if we can't do it that way, why don't we go ahead and ask the CPA for something? Because things happen, like the drainage issues this year, which probably were not, nobody really, you know, people hoped that it wouldn't happen, but there it is. You have to spend money in that capital.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, there's routine needs, right? So there's our regular operating expenses just from the day-to-day operation. And there's projects that, you know, outside of the committee level, like the lower level of just the department, things we know we need to do, right? And we got to earmark. Tish and I have been talking for a couple of years with the drainage issue that we need to address at the, you know, the Pines and the Ninth Hole, which, you know, it's something we're going to do. It's going to be, you know, we're going to do a lot of the work in-house, but I still have to procure it. I still have to spend, you know, time and have resources and labor working it, right, in that area. And that's something that, you know, that's why, you know, I can't commit that money to other projects, because I know that's something that we need to do. We need to fix.
Absolutely.
Right? It's infrastructure work that needs to be done that we've kind of deferred for a number of years because we've been focused on other things. It's a fine balance too of just the amount of resources that we have, the amount of funding we have, the work that we need to be done, and kind of balancing it all.
I think your idea of an assessment from the finance committee, I understand, because, you know, by my count, we have $1 million more going into that perpetual fund or somewhere around there. So some hunks of hundreds of thousands of dollars going in this year from the 400,000 in the mausoleum that weren't there in the past, that should generate significantly more interest revenue.
Yeah.
So I'd like to understand that.
But so what do you, just for my own clarification, what do you like the additional amounts that are going there this year?
So
Mausoleum.
for the mausoleum and
Yeah.
for the sale, there's a perpetual care funding that goes with that to the perpetual care fund, right? So there's been a big bump in,
Yeah,
In cash in there.
$400,000 fund.
and then the mausoleum,
that is the mausoleum.
So how about didn't we just have a huge sale, and you mentioned we had
That's a mausoleum sale.
the mausoleum, okay.
Yeah, so just the one payment, that's it. And then the grant money that we're getting from CPA is specifically for the stone wall restoration. That's not going into the cemetery fund. That's just a separate
Yeah.
project account that we can use for the stone wall
And
restoration.
we are using, it's a matching grant, so we are using $340,000 from the cemetery fund.
Correct.
Match.
Yeah.
The money that we're getting from the CPA.
Yeah, I can get, what I can do, what I'll do for the committee, it sounds like, I will get current balances from perpetual care cemetery fund. I'll get some historical figures. I can go back, 5 years. I can go back further if you want, but I think 5 years is probably a good window. And then up to a current where we're at funding levels with our proposed budget, show. Yeah, that's.
So I'm gonna draw this to a close, but I do want to make a point. At least my perception is that as well-funded as we are as an enterprise, okay, compared to other departments in the town, the money that's allocated for capital projects each year cannot keep up with the capital. Okay, and as a consequence, we've had to start thinking about raising money from other sources that in some ways you might consider protected, dedicated funds, right? So the CPA grant is like, you can only use it for stone walls, and that's great. Maybe we can do some metal structures. Then we'll go for the big one, like $10 million to do landscape restoration. And I'm not even sure that's enough, but I mean, it's gonna be it's a big ticket item, this things. So that's a future ask. We gotta find a really generous, grant agency for that, but we gotta do it. Okay.
Could I do, before we put a close, okay, that's what I was just like, so, conceptually, like, there's been a big shift, right? I mean, I think you said 55 cremations and like 9 full, so like, how does that affecting like the cemetery, like, overall budget? Because, right, I mean, like, we sell full lots at a much higher price, and then like cremation lots get sold at like a smaller price, and like, there's been like this big shift over, the last just 20 years or so, where it was like full lots. A lot of people were being very full, and now it's like cremations. And like, is there any impact? And I mean, I'm not looking for the answer now, and I'm not looking for hard numbers type of thing like that. Was there any impact to the cemetery fund as you're looking at the numbers and pulling? We'd be kind of curious to understand how that's impacting the overall funding. Selling lots at a cheaper price because we're selling cremation.
The majority of the cremation interments are in older family lots
Within
that are, they're actually sold as bulk, right?
So maybe we could think like, what would that trend look like in the future then? Like, obviously cremation, that's great. It sounds like we haven't felt the impact because, like we're saying,
And it's probably similar.
are going, but it seems like this is the trend. And how would that potentially impact, the future budgeting if we're really selling things at cheaper, at the lesser, lots of the lesser prices? And again, not like hard numbers, but I don't know if you can think about it.
We'd have to go back and look at like, as far as the trends and, I mean, we obviously track everything as far as, but we're not trending the numbers, where are we trending more cremation or more, full lots. It's the 55 numbers has been 3 months worth of data, right? So you divide that by the 3, and we're pretty on par with the number of interments. That's the number of interments we've had, right? So a lot of the lots are sold previously, right? And now
But I
there's a
think
need, and so we're active as far as the operations.
I think if you went back, it's like 20 years, right?
Yeah.
I think you would see those numbers like completely opposite, right? Like there'd be a lot more full burials than the cremation areas. So now they're doing cremations, and they're not the same price.
But we're selling less land too.
Correct.
Right, so, I have a full lot from my family, and it's 6 cremation lots on there. Is
8, Rod.
8. Oh, 8.
8, yes.
So do you pay every time someone is interned?
Yes.
So you buy the lot, but then, so if you bought a lot that held 2 fulls, but actually it can take
8.
8
cremation.
cremations, you pay every time you put that 8, it's times 8, so you're
You
not really losing.
Actually, for the sale of the land, a single grave costs $1,200. That's essentially double a cremation lot. A cremation lot is $750. So if we sell two cremation lots, we're getting $1,500 for the same space that we're getting $1,200 for a full grave.
Okay.
Here's your
Maybe,
report.
maybe bring this to a close. Aaron, Tish, thank you very much. Okay. Let's move then to item D2, monument request by, Mr. Bing,
and Mr. Sawyer.
Mr. Sawyer. We'll open this up. We have a request, and could you give us, Tish, just a background
You
on
should- I
why
think
the
you have
request
the
is coming?
application. Yeah, I think you have the
Yeah.
application in the packet.
Why the request is being forwarded?
We got the application, and if you look at the artwork, the artwork is a man lying with an animal, Tyrannosaurus,
Stegosaurus.
Stegosaurus. Never gonna know my dinosaurs. Something I wasn't comfortable with approving without the committee's discussion.
But in terms of dimensions, it meets all of the dimensional.
Correct.
requirements.
Yep.
And this is going to be,
Yeah, basically, yeah, it does.
and this is a plate that's going to be in the ground.
Yes.
I open it up for discussion, questions from the committee members.
I don't have a problem, but just a curiosity, Stegosaurus, what was there a background to that?
Yes, it was a favorite of my wife. She was enamored of dinosaurs from an early age and continued into the end of her life, along with many, many, many other things. She characterized the Stegosaurus as an improbable animal, and hers was an improbable life.
It's fantastic.
Is this stone?
It's going to be carved.
Granite.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Sam? Any other discussion?
I'll just make a comment that I love to see this type of stuff that captures people and who they were on their tombstones. So,
Want to make a
so
motion?
I would like to make a motion to accept the Sawyer Bing application for their.
We have a second? Okay, roll call, Jerry?
Aye.
Brian? Priscilla?
Hi.
Jeff? Aye. Rod? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank the Bing and Sawyer family. Thank the committee, and thank you for all your other work. So, which I knew nothing of. I mean, and just as an attendee, I suppose, of the cemetery, I don't see it's beautiful as is. Not to say that it would stay that way if you guys didn't do the things you're doing, but to me, it looks great. So thank you so much.
We look forward to your.
Well, like any good gardeners, the good gardeners always see the work be done, where the visitors just see the beauty.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you very much. You're welcome to stay and listen in. I mean, we are a wild and crazy bunch here. So.
I appreciate that. I'm on the West Coast and I'm working right now, but I wanted to participate in this and support Dad and Mom. So thank you all for your support.
Well, thank you. Item D3, lot transfer request, Leahy family.
Okay. To give you a little background, long ago, you had to be a resident of Concord to purchase a lot in the cemetery. So long ago, if you were a resident at one point and had moved away and then had a need for a purchase, but couldn't purchase, you would ask a friend to do it. Happened all the time. So we have a bunch of lots that were owned by friends of the family. And then, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, 18 years ago, town meeting changed that bylaw and then allowed former residents of at least a year to be lot owners here. Shortly after that, we had an issue where a person died whose friend had purchased a lot for them. Their children unfortunately didn't know who had purchased it, but we were able to figure it out. And at that time, brought the issue back to the committee and said, can we go through their records and kind of do like a one-time, we will transfer this to the person if they met the requirements of having lived here for at least a year, transfer these lots to the people who should have been the purchasers to begin with. Committee approved it, basically blanket approval. And we did a few of them and then we got kind of held up just with deeds, and it just didn't, the project never got completed. This is one of those lots. So they have approached us now where Kathleen's friend had a son who died and is interred here. When he died, she was not living in Concord, but had lived in Concord. So asked a friend to make the purchase for her, which they did. And they've owned the lot since 1999. They're asking now, the owners of the lot are asking now that they be able to transfer this lot to Kathleen, who does meet our former residency requirement. Put the lot in her name, she could be the owner, and that way they can kind of get their name off of it.
Just one follow-up question.
Yes.
It was purchased in 1999.
Correct.
Would it have qualified for the original, the activity where, I was going to say the amnesty program where you were?
Blanket approval.
Yeah, the blanket approval. Was
No, because she was not eligible at the time to make the purchase. It was after 1999 that former residents became eligible to be owners.
I see.
Which means since 1999.
Yeah,
Ah,
it was probably, I think, like 18 or so years ago that it changed at town meeting. I'd have to look, but it was 15 to 18 years ago.
So we're asking basically the grandfather as opposed to just.
Correct, which is what we were doing. We were going backwards, trying to, we did locate a bunch of them. We found a bunch of people. Some people didn't meet the criteria, just had never lived in Concord, but wanted to be buried here. So we didn't make any transfers to those people. We did do a few of them and then had to stop. That just was getting.
So now the
Too bogged
operations, just operations is to be responsive when a request comes, to make a transfer and see whether that person qualifies, as opposed to being prospective.
Correct.
Just going through it all.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions from the committee members? Any discussion?
I'd make a motion to accept the lot transfer request of the Leahy family.
Can I have a second?
On second.
Okay, let's have a roll call. Jerry?
Aye.
Priscilla?
aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Rod? Aye. Okay. Unanimously approved that motion. Okay, the next item, E4, is just an introduction. And I'm so glad that Andrea is here because she is one of the co-authors of the current Town of Concord Cemetery Master Plan, which was prepared in 2018. It was issued in 2018. And it is a very useful document for the community. It's extremely useful. It's a mixture of strategies, vision, and operations, and goals. And it's a great tool for committee members who are entering the committee, for their first full years. I mean, it's a very, very, very informative document. So I wanted just to introduce the topic today and make a proposal that we agree as a committee that we will review it and update it this year. Okay, that's the proposal. I'd like to give everyone a homework assignment, and that is for the next meeting. You conduct your review and identify 3 sections that you will participate in reviewing and updating. Okay, and that if we do it with 3, we'll wind up, I think, having multiple persons on each section. And that's really important because we want to get fresh eyes. When you don't just want to have one person looking at it, want to have multiple. So that's the general idea. Now, what I'm not clear about, and maybe Andrea can provide some historical context, how did you work with Tish and Aaron or Aaron's predecessor when you were doing this in 2018? Were you having them also review sections as we finish the review?
We did, we had a lot of discussions after the meeting, so then it was as well as, I think it was.
Yeah.
And so we would just take input from them, like, we had a lot of ideas about what had been done, what we could cross off the old plan, because there was a plan from
Long ago, yeah.
yeah, which had kind of followed by this. We looked at that. There was a bunch of stuff that was done. There was some stuff that was never done, some stuff that wasn't even relevant anymore, and kind of started. Yeah, everyone had input. Looked at it all.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time, and then mostly we just looked at day-to-day operations, what needs to get. Things like scanning the documents was a big thing. We had all this, I mean, you'll see when you go through it, but like there was some stuff that just had sort of been on a list of things to do that just got some committees to look at it, some wouldn't.
So thank you. And so the other part is, Aaron, I have a sense that you and Tish have probably taken a look at Appendix E, the suggested priorities, and made a decision about what things are completed, which can be dropped off the list, and what things are ongoing, what things may need to be dropped because priorities have changed. So I'd like to get your perspective at the next meeting.
Yep.
For Appendix E, okay? Then we can talk about what, you know, in the coming year, we can talk about what things ought to be in there.
Okay.
And whether or not we ought to be looking at outside sources besides the cemetery fund, you know, as funding sources going forward.
Sounds good.
Okay.
We can do that, and I did jot down some just thoughts as far as projects and goals for, you know, FY 24. Since I mean, for us as a department, we started that.
What do you want to just mention it right
rattle
now?
those off right now, just food for thought, and we can go into
Sure,
more deeper
sure.
discussion
That's
next. All right. So for us on a department level, number one is staff hiring. Like I mentioned before, we got the head count. You know, we need to fill that as soon as possible. The more staff we have, the more productive we can be on a day-to-day basis and support the town and their needs. The Stonewall Restoration Project, since that one's funded, already ongoing. The landscape restoration, specifically of the kind of the Melvin family lot area, that's been ongoing, and you know, we're working with a landscape designer now to provide us some guidance and a plan, and we're going to be trying to get that area established this fall. Bidding out the landscaping contract. I know that's more of kind of an O&M rather than a capital, but that's on our priorities for the fall. The columbarium concept plan, some design. That's something that past committees have said that there's a priority for them, and we've moved that forward. So we want to make sure that we continue on with that effort. Headstone restoration is an ongoing kind of annual investment that we do in the cemetery. The drainage project and the Pines and Ninth Bowl area that I mentioned earlier. We have a mausoleum construction project that's scheduled to start later this month, and we'll be managing that. And we need to lay out lots in the new section. We're running out of lots. You know, like we talked about earlier, that's how we generate revenue. So we continue our operation. We have plenty of land, but we need to lay those lots out so that we need to sell them. That requires us to go out, hire a consultant, a designer to come in, do the survey, lay out those plans, have that reviewed by the committee, get that approved, get the costs associated with those lots, and get that posted.
You're talking about the knoll?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So if you're driving into the knoll and you're, let's say, stay to the left around the circle, all the area, the grassy area to the left where there's a couple of trees, no headstones, but that's all open land. But we need to basically essentially subdivide the lots, full lots, cremation lots, columbarium area, and then get that approved and accepted by the committee, and then able to sell those. Because we're running out of lots right now. We have kind of 1s and 2s and some individual lots in the circle in the area. folks are interested or they're not interested, right? We don't want to lose sales to other cemeteries, so we need to get that going. As far as our, in addition to those goals and projects, our daily operations includes a lot, funerals. Tish is working with families to do, at need and planned sales. We regularly, right now, we're in the midst of kind of cleaning our stormwater infrastructure, including catch basins, drainage lines. We're doing a lot of tree maintenance this fall and our regular routine landscape maintenance. Those are kind of the ongoing daily items. Just want to kind of capture that with some new members of the committee. Just give them an idea of it's a high level of what we got in the cemetery. So, and then obviously with fall coming up, there's a lot of visitors to town in the fall season, and we have two of our cemetery, all three of them kind of downtown, but we have two specifically. They're in operation as well. They're downtown. They get a lot of visitors, and Tish is really focusing on those right now. There's a lot of effort that comes into leaf cleanup and fall cleanup. We're focusing on downtown. So,
Thank you, Aaron. That's great. That's great. And I would like this not to be a document that we revise and then put aside for the next 5 years. I'd like to pull it out once, maybe 2 times a year for the cemetery committee, just to check on where we are, because it's and it's absolutely normal that certain goals that sounded great when we put together this revised document will become obsolete, right? Things happen and they just drop off and they'll be replaced by something more important. But it's great to be reminded about where we are and to recognize that there's probably a limit about how many major projects that can be done at any time, just because of personnel and resource constraints. Okay. Are there any other comments? Is everybody okay with homework assignments? Okay, so 3 sections. Yeah.
Sorry, so yes, the 3 sections. So there's 6 sections in general, kind of, right?
Yep.
And plus a few appendix. So you want us to look at 3 of the 6?
No, I want you to take a look at them all and decide where you want to really, make your contribution.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And there will be more than one person in each section. I'm hoping. I mean, it would be really embarrassing if everybody comes back and says, I'll do A, B, and C. All members, or 1, 2, and 3, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Right.
But I think
Well, one of them 5 is Melvin Memorial Preservation, which I think we've already completed, right? That's pretty much done.
The restoration was completed, yeah. Maintenance will stay ongoing, but yeah. Yeah.
So,
all right. That's a given,
we'll take
right?
that
That's
one
the
out
gut.
and
That's
then-
the gut course, right?
I'll take that one.
Yeah. So,
No, but so yeah. So you can, everybody will have one throwaway. Okay, and everybody takes another one. But what I really want to have in this is at least 2 perspectives on each section. So 2 committee member perspectives on each section, just to make sure that we, to try and assure that we're getting a variety of perspectives on something, because I've always found that having different perspectives usually makes for a better product at the end.
Couple questions on that. So there are some things in here I've seen and we've gone over in different meetings that you guys have already done and updated. And you've updated us at different times. So as you go through an update, that would be helpful. But one thing was, so we might want to make a living document, is the actual number of plots available. I don't know if you have a program that and as you're laying it out, because that's something that could be kind of continuously, let us know. It's kind of a dashboard. Hey guys, we have this many cemetery lots, full body lots, so many cremation lots, so on and so forth. The second
As an ongoing
Is that
part of the agenda.
once a year or something,
Oh,
just gets updated, just a
appendix.
table. So yeah,
And it's the.
Yeah. but that's from 2018.
Yeah, right. So we're updating.
Yeah. The second thing is in here, we talked about doing a community input session, and it says there was never funding available for it. Did we ever ended up getting input from the community about burials in the future? And where, to kind of similar to your point, over 50% of burials are now cremations. So if we ever,
We had a public hearing.
What, can somebody tell me when that was? I'd like to go back and look at the minutes on that.
It had been 2018 or 2007.
November 2018?
We did both. It's on our website. I think it's on our website.
We'll get.
Oh, yeah.
There's there was a questionnaire.
Yeah.
That I think might be still on our website. I'm not even sure, but the results of it were on our website. And there was a public hearing where the public was invited to express interest in any type of future. The choices were family mausoleum, community mausoleum, scattering gardens, columbarium, and green burial. And there was the most interest in, oddly, the most expensive family mausoleum, 0 interest in a shared mausoleum, and there was a lot of interest in a columbarium. No interest really in scattering garden and very little interest in green burial. There was one person.
I have a lot of interest in green burial, but
And
I
that's,
think the younger populations will too.
Yeah.
that's why we went forward with the columbarium and the family mausoleums, because those were the two things that garnered the most interest from the public that were invited, but everybody was invited, the ones that came. For sure.
Jerry had some comments. I want you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to note, I think that was like late 2018 that took place. Yeah. Like November, I want to say November 2018 was when the public hearing was. It was at the townhouse.
Well, this is an excellent discussion and excellent points. We could certainly not make it suggesting that we do this, but we can certainly consider, once we have a final draft of the revised cemetery master plan, making it available and asking, putting a questionnaire, asking for public comments before we finalize it. I mean, you could have something like that. Something like that. I don't know exactly what you would do, maybe whether it would be a meeting where members of the committee would give a presentation, ask for community input, just to make sure that we're being as open and as transparent as possible for something which is quite a meaningful place for a lot of citizens.
Perhaps we can find the minutes or report from that meeting and have that as part of the start, because it looks like this was done before that meeting was held, right?
I think we continued working on it after the meeting. So it was kind of
It seems like this reflects some of the priorities from the survey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we work on it like almost every month. We mentioned it or referred to it, and we're always editing it.
The plan?
Yeah, the plan.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to, in the interest of time, just like to draw this to a close right now. Thank everybody for their comments. Everybody's okay with their homework assignments? Got that in the minutes? Okay, we will take count. Next item is D5, chair comments. Just one, I had one comment. I had that wonderful ceremony during the summer for the Civil War veteran who was going to be added. Yeah, George Dugan. And there was a very nice ceremony in the center of town, and a very nice ceremony in the cemetery. I just want to let people know, and again, this may be the bane of Tish and Aaron's and Justine's life. The Concord Museum has circulated that they've got a program here, Women of Sleepy Hollow Walking Tour. I don't know if they contacted the cemetery that they were going to do this. It is on Saturday, September 23rd, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
We get this tours in there all the time, so we don't necessarily know when they all are.
But one of the things, at least in a plan, is that you might want to find out who conducts these tours and go and meet with them and ask them, as a matter of courtesy, if they wouldn't mind, telling the cemetery staff when they were planning to do these things, so that if there was a If there was maintenance scheduled or if there was a ceremony scheduled and tournament, that.
We just turn them around. We just turn them around and,
You just tell them go away.
yeah, it's not that common. Typically, they're in the Authors Ridge area, because it's obviously the tour guides through the visitor center as well. They're there all the time. Typically in the Authors Ridge area, and sometimes walk through, and in the Melvin, and walk through some other areas to get there. And if we see them coming, we'll just kind of send them in a different direction.
So really, right, it's like, it's, you know,
Well, why not that courtesy?
right,
wonder that
for
every
us,
day.
it turns into more of an administrative issue where at what point do we start to regulate, well, what's a tour, right? How many is it? One person, 2 people, 10 people, 20 people, 100 people? So what the town has a town use permit for organized events, where essentially they want to be the only ones using that space, right? And there's a group of employees that review all the permits. Permits are submitted online through the town manager's office. I'm on that committee, or not a team, it's more like a working group, reviews permits as a representative for Public Works, for example. The Friends of Sleepy Hollow are hosting an event, the dedication for the bench, right? They pulled the permit, we reviewed it, we approved it. Something like that, we do review and we'll provide input and comment, feedback, and whether or not we approve the event and issue the permit. But for something like this, where they're not reserving it, right? They're not the only ones that are going to be in there. There's groups, there's tour buses. It really shouldn't be tour buses, but like tours of people that go through there all the time. It's really tough for us to kind of regulate who those are and how it works and all of that. So
I'm not
We're
looking.
just there watching.
Yeah, I'm not looking to suggest that we regulate, right? We had huge discussions a couple of years ago about bicyclists. But we're not gonna look for regulate, but I don't think it's such a bad thing for example, me to go to the museum and just say, listen, if you're gonna do things in the cemetery, it would be nice, it'd be a courteous thing, to send an email to Tish and let you know when you're coming.
I would say that that's tough, because at what point do we stop, right? Is that if you're representing the cemetery committee or the town or the department, like if, let's say, the Concord Academy or another organization in town was to post it, now we have to go to all those organizations to treat them equally, right? And we don't have necessarily the resources to do that or anything that says that I would say, Rod, if you want to do that as an individual, by all means, but I wouldn't recommend doing that as a representing the committee, that
Okay.
we're asking them
Okay.
to put us on notice every time they want to go.
Okay.
to a tour.
Yeah, it really isn't. We're there, we're watching from someplace, we're watching every funeral.
Okay.
Partly for that reason,
Okay.
but we obviously have to be there to complete the interment. And if I see a group, we will go turn them around.
Okay, so.
We do, they're
at that point.
inconvenienced because the priority is a funeral.
Okay, so you do
And
have,
it's-
the control.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, if
we
there's
do.
an organized event going on, like a
So we'll
funeral,
have a school bus show up with
We-
35 kids. Like I said, it's rare that they're on Authors Ridge having an interment, but we've had it happen where a whole group of people come around the corner and I tell them they can't come in.
yeah, we have signs we
It
put
is
out,
what it
we
is.
have signboards we put
Yeah,
out.
we do.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it works.
Just like the.
It works.
That's all. Okay, so that closes my chair comments and we go to D6 and that would be the committee members' comments.
How did the filming go? It was really muddy and slippery. Any damage up on the hill?
It wasn't actually muddy that day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine. All went well. They were very good. Yep, took extra caution to not be they did use the tennis balls on the bottom of the posts for the cameras and for their big screen things. Yeah, it went fine.
Great.
All good.
That is great. That's great. They didn't get a sunset though, did
No, they actually were done before sunset.
they? Okay,
Yeah, and he told me that day he was gonna probably request another day, but then never did.
It's all confusing.
Yeah.
Sunset will be there, don't you worry.
Put a sunset in it.
Yeah. The bench that's going in that you guys folks are putting in, what's the date?
What's the
time? The 24th.
okay. Any other members? Jerry, any comments?
It's at 1:30.
Okay,
I'm sure I'll see it.
anything else?
I think Kevin said, but I think he said, but the bridge doesn't always publish things that I sent him. I just did the program for it, so I should know, but it's all in the car.
Okay,
That's okay,
I
that's great.
forget what time.
It's definitely 1:30.
Oh.
1:33 is the advertised time, and I think I know he's trying to put stuff online, urging people to park before the
Yeah,
church
I-
and come in that first gate.
I haven't really been paying attention because I thought it should be really that publicized. That's just my opinion, but, I think doing the program is, it's actually gonna be very, very nice.
Andrea, anything from the, friends?
Just for that.
Great. Are there any other committee member comments? Are there any public comments? Well, that being the case, I think our business is completed for today, so I'd like to close the meeting. Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make a motion to it.
Second? Second. Jerry?
Aye.
Ryan? Aye. So,
Hi.
Ron? Aye. Okay, thank you all very much.
Bye, Jerry.